Hello friends, how's it going? It's me, Betty Jean. I thought with all the talk about my favorite things this year, we would revisit my favorites last year in 2021 and just kind of chat about how I still feel about them. Are they still favorites? Did I give some of them the boot in the declutter series? We're about to talk about it. Before we hop into reminiscing about my 2021 favorites, I did of course film this look. It should already be up on my Instagram and TikTok by the time this video goes up. And as far as my accessories today go, this necklace is Ana Luisa, this is a wig off of Amazon, and this is a CC brand beanie. So yeah, without further ado, let's just hop in and reminisce about my 2021 favorites. First things first, we have brow products. My two favorites last year were the NYX The Brow Glue and also the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Pen. I still love both of these. I will say this isn't like my all-time favorite brow gel anymore. Lately, I've been doing the soap brow method again, but I also love the NYX Thick It Stick It Brow Gel a little bit more. So this one isn't my #1 favorite anymore, but it's still a fantastic clear brow gel. It is like super glue. It is so wonderful. I just like the NYX Thick It Stick It one more because it's tinted and it has fibers to kind of fill in your brows at the same time. But I still absolutely adore this. And the Lift and Snatch Brow Pen is still my go-to brow pen. I love how like precise and tiny the little tip is. It's what I use to fill in my brows today. I personally love this. I use the shade Ash Brown. Moving into foundations now, my all-time favorite last year was the Urban Decay Stay Naked Hydromaniac. I still love this. I absolutely consider this one of my absolute favorites. Mine's in the shade Fair 20, and it's just so good. It's so glowy on the skin. It doesn't look too dewy either. Like, it's such a perfect natural glow for me. It's not too high coverage. I adore this. And one that I no longer have is the Fenty Eaze Drop Skin Tint. I did declutter that one this year just because I felt like I had to force it to work. And I wanted to love it more so bad. And I think I was trying really hard to love it last year, but this year, I think I just decided it wasn't my favorite. The only way I could make it work for me is if I mixed in a ton of glowy product into it, just because even though it's a skin tint, it's a little too dry for me. I don't know what it is about Fenty complexion products, but they're always too dry for me. So that one I no longer have. It was fun while it lasted, but I just decided I have other things I'd rather use. Moving into concealer, last year I talked about the Rare Beauty concealer, and it's still one of my all-time favorites. It's actually probably my #1 favorite. I've been using a different one lately just to get use out of something else, but I still absolutely love this. I've repurchased it since last year and it's just so good. The shade I've been using lately is 110N. It is so creamy, so blendable. It's so natural looking under the eyes. It's not too matte or anything. I adore this concealer. Moving into bronzer, last year I raved about the Fenty Inda Sun Bronzer, and it's still one of my favorite bronzers. I think this is such a good color. It blends so beautifully on the cheeks. I love the level of pigmentation. I think this is such a good bronzer. I feel like this started like my bronzer kick at the beginning of the year because then I was super into trying like all the bronzers this year. I've narrowed it back down to things that I love the most, and this is still one of them. I love this one. Getting into blushes now, I was obsessed with the Rare Beauty melting blushes. Specifically this one in the shade Nearly Neutral. It's still such a good formula. It's just so creamy. And it truly does like melt into the skin. I love using this. I usually use it with a sponge, but I also use it with a brush from time to time. I still think this is a wonderful blush. I also raved about a couple blush sticks from ColourPop, Winona Forever and Cottage Life. I actually don't have Cottage Life anymore. That one just didn't make the cut during my brutal declutter this year. But Winona Forever still holds strong. This one unfortunately is no longer available, but I do really, really like this formula. It is so creamy on the skin. I love the blush sticks. Usually I just rub my sponge around the product itself and then I go on my face. And it's so good. So I still love Winona Forever and just that formula in general. A couple other ColourPop ones I was raving about last year were Aloha Honey and Trippin. And if you saw my declutter series this year, you know I decluttered a ton of my ColourPop blushes, and these two were some of the only to make the cut actually. So yes, I still love these. This one's Aloha Honey. It is so punchy and wonderful. Look how bright that is. It's so cute. I'm still super, super happy with this one. And Trippin is just such a lovely chocolatey color. I think it's so pretty. It has a really nice sheen to it as well. Look how gorgeous that is. Again, I cannot stress enough, those were some of my only ColourPop blushes I kept this year from the declutter, just because I was really trying to be picky and rein it in a bit, and those two still stand very strong in my collection. Moving on to Melt, the Buzzkill blush was such a hit for me last year. I love this duo blush so much. It's so pretty. I'm just gonna swirl these together for the swatch. But look how glowy and magical it is. I still love this. I still pull it out. It is such a beautiful blush. And the cream blush lights came out, and I have the shade Polished, and this is still one of my, if not my #1 favorite blush in my entire collection. Look at that color. It is breathtaking, and this is just such a fantastic cream formula. I've totally set my face with powder and then remembered I wanted to use this cream, and I've gone in with a sponge on top of my powders, and it still looks fantastic. It doesn't get all bunchy. Powder lays nice on top of it as well. It's just such a flawless, pigmented, amazing cream blush. I adore it. I tried this Be Perfect Cosmetics Scorched Baked Blush in the shade Melt, and again, it obviously survived the declutter or it wouldn't be here. I still greatly enjoy this one. Look how pretty that is. Such a beautiful, glowy formula. I still stand by that I want to try more of these. I just haven't yet, but this is such a good formula. You can tell the vibes I was into last year too. I loved a peachy vibe last year. Still do, don't get me wrong, but this was definitely the vibe of last year. A couple blush palettes, the Aether Beauty Crystal Charged Cheek Palette in the shade Amber. This is so good. I love the two blushes and the highlighter in here so much. I'll just swatch the highlighter in this middle one. They're just so creamy on the skin. I love these formulas. They melt onto the skin so nicely. Even though they're a powder, I swear it's like they melted into the skin. Such a beautiful formula. I also tried the Moon Prism Blush Palette from Lunar Beauty, and it's amazing. I love this so much still. I think it's such a beautiful blush palette. I have the newest one from Lunar Beauty as well. I'll swatch just a couple of these. Again, it's just such a good formula. Honestly, the glowy formula is my favorite, and I wish he would do an all glowy blush palette. That would be amazing. But even the matte blushes are really nice. They blend onto the skin so nicely, so pigmented and wonderful. I love those blushes so much. Moving into highlighter now, my favorite liquid highlighter last year was the Rare Beauty Enlighten one. This is still one of my favorite liquid highlighters of all time. I'm so picky when it comes to cream and liquid highlighters, and this one's fantastic. It actually pops on the skin. It's not too subtle, because that's one of my problems with liquids and creams usually. It still beams and shines. This looks good with makeup. It also looks good on bare skin if you just want to have a nice glow on the cheeks. This blends beautifully. It never bunches up my makeup. This is still such a fantastic liquid highlighter. One of my all-time favorites, and one of the few that I have in my collection. I also got the Gifted highlighter from Kaleidos last year, and man, oh man, this is still so beautiful. It's one of their super shifty multi-chrome highlighters, and it's magical. I actually should wear this again soon. Look how pretty that is. Oh my gosh. I forgot how beautiful that was. It's breathtaking, and I still love it. I have this Be Perfect Get Wet highlighter in this shade Skin Sheen. I was obsessed with this last year, and it's still so good. It's kind of like a putty formula, and it's so sparkly and wet looking. I live for it. You see how beautiful that is? Oh, it's magical. When you're out in the sun and the light hits it, it is radiant. Not that I'm hanging out in the sun very often. I'm very much an indoorsy kind of person, but even so, this is a gorgeous highlighter. A single highlighter that I no longer have is the Aether Beauty Pure Diamond Dust highlighter. I loved that highlighter. It looks like wetness on the cheeks. I loved it so hard for a long time, but during the declutter this year when I was swatching and comparing things, I just realized I had things that were so similar, and I really was trying to condense my collection down a little bit, so I ended up giving that one to a friend, but it's still beautiful. I don't have a problem with it. I just didn't need it anymore. And a highlight palette that I fell in love with last year is the Aspen palette from BH Cosmetics. This is such a fun highlight palette. These are so colorful and beautiful on the skin. I'll swatch again, just a couple of these to show you. Look how cute they are, just like wintry, colorful. I love those colors. I think they are absolutely precious. Moving into eyes now, I discovered 2 eye primers last year that I really enjoyed. The ColourPop Party Proof, that is clearly very used, and the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip. I still really enjoy both of these. The ColourPop one isn't like my #1 favorite anymore. I feel like I've kind of pushed it out of the cycle as much. Like I'm still keeping this one around to finish using it up, but I do have some primers that I like better. One of them still being the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip. This is like just such a controversial product. People hate this eye primer. People ask me all the time, how do you make it work? I don't do anything special. It just works for me. I just blend it on the eyes and everything works great on top of it. I'm a sucker for the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip line. It's always worked great for me, and this eye primer is no exception, and I still absolutely adore it. Some brushes that I fell in love with last year were the Blend Money eyeshadow brushes. They're amazing. It's 1 through 5. All different sizes, but they're all small and detail focused. I used a lot of these today for this eye look actually, and I still love these. I have, I think 3 or 4 sets of them. I think they are fantastic brushes and I'm still super happy with them. Getting into eyeshadow palettes now because I know that's always very exciting. I'm not gonna go in any particular order. I just have a stack next to me. The Likely Makeup Ugly palette. I was so excited when she came out with her first eyeshadow palette. I am still chomping at the bit waiting for her to come out with either another blush palette or another eyeshadow palette. This is so fun. The mattes are so pigmented and so amazing, and the shimmers are really cute as well. It's not like one of my all-time favorites in my collection, but I still really enjoy it. It obviously survived the declutter. Lethal Cosmetics. I got the Velvet Dusk palette, I think at the very tail end of 2020 actually, but I used it in 2021. And I still love this. I'm actually gonna be using this soon in an Instagram video / TikTok. I think that'll be up after this video though, because I was really excited to use this, throw it back a little bit. And I still think this is a fantastic one. I ranked this very highly in my Lethal ranking recently. This is still such a favorite. And the Lethal is Dead palette. This was the collaboration with Teresa is Dead, and I'm still so excited about this one. I'm just so proud of them for doing their first collab together. This is such a fun palette, the homage to horror. I love the fun colors. This will always be very near and dear to my heart. I love this. The Unearthly Cosmetics Not Normal palette. This is still, I think, my #1 favorite from the brand. It's just so good. I just love the grungy tones that are in here. I love the shimmers. This is just such a fun palette. I fell in love with this one so fast, and I still absolutely adore it. Oh my gosh, the Nomad Cosmetics Iceland palette. This is for sure still my #1 favorite from the brand. It is too good. They absolutely outdid themselves with this palette. They've come out with some really great palettes since this one, don't get me wrong, but this one still reigns first place in my mind. It's just so good. I love the balance between the warm and cool colors. The shimmers in here are immaculate. I love this one. The Glaminatrix You Beauty palette. I got this one last spring. Mine is falling apart a bit, so I have to be very careful holding it. Oh goodness, you see what a mess this is. Mine did arrive kind of crumbly, and it is just kind of been deteriorating ever since. I still think the shimmers in here are really pretty, and I like the overall vibe of this one, but I am more hesitant to use it just because it's quite messy and quite crumbly, and it's dying day by day. So do I consider it a favorite still? Probably not, but I still think it is really pretty, and I do want to use it more. I'm just scared to. The Glamlight and Michaela palette, the first collab they did together. This was also my first Glamlight palette ever, and I fell in love with it. It's a little bigger than I typically go for, but I did fall in love with this color story. I think it's really pretty, and these shimmers blew me away. I was so impressed with this. I'm very happy I tried this palette. I think it's really pretty still. I'll have to use this again soon sometime because it's been a little while since I've played with it, but I still think this is a wonderful palette. Again, do I consider it like a favorite? Maybe not like a top favorite, but I still really appreciate that palette. Oh man, the Ace Beauté Tropical Vibes. This is still my #1 favorite palette from Ace Beauté. This one swooped in and took first place real quick. I just love the swampy, grungy tones in here. This is such a me palette. It is absolutely breathtaking, and I'm still so obsessed with it. The Bad Witch Club from Give Me Glow. Oh my gosh. I love reminiscing about this, like especially like these all together specifically, because this all feels very 2021 to talk about. This one is also actually still my #1 favorite from the brand. I think it's beautiful. Wow, last year really did like steal the show for a lot of favorite palettes for me. I still love this. I think the color story is phenomenal. The shimmers are so fun. I still really, really enjoy it. Odin's Eye, I have the Erd palette, which I still love. I still ranked this very, very highly in my recent Odin's Eye ranking. I still think this is such a beautiful palette, just such a cute, teeny one, and I still think it's fantastic. And also the legendary Diversa collab in general last year, but specifically the Giant Wolves in collaboration with my friend Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner. I still am obsessed with it. I think these shimmers are amazing, and this is just such a perfect color story. This is also my #1 favorite from the brand as of right now. It's just too good. I'm actually also playing with this one soon in an Instagram video / TikTok, which I think will also be up right after this video, or maybe the same day as this video. So go check that out if you're interested. I still adore this one. It's perfect. The Blend Bunny Surge palette. I'm so happy this one existed. This sparked my love for the brand. I'm so happy this came out and I bought it because I finally got to understand the hype of Blend Bunny. Their mattes are truly so good. They are so blendable. They blend with such ease. I feel so artistic when I use this. I feel like I just get so creative. It's such a fun brand. They are one of my absolute favorite brands now, and this is still my #1 favorite palette in my collection, aside from my own personal collabs. This is just amazing. They knocked it out of the park. It's such a good color story. Beauty Bay. I finally tried Beauty Bay eyeshadow palettes last year, starting with the Wilderness palette, and this blew my mind. These mattes are so creamy and blendable, and the shimmers are too good. So metallic and punchy on the lids. I'm so happy I decided to take a chance and try this one out because I fell in love. I have been tempted to buy more Beauty Bay palettes, but it's easy to get sucked in with a brand that's more affordable and buy everything, and I'm trying not to buy everything so I don't, but I did try one other one last year, the Age of Opulence. I still love this one as well. It's so good. I just chatted about this recently in my winter favorites, and I'm really excited to use this one again because it is just so, so pretty. Next up, we have Kaleidos. We have the Club Nebula palette that was in collaboration with Angie. This is so good. This is still one of the best palettes Kaleidos has ever done. The shimmers are so fun, and this color story is just a blast to play with. I will always cherish this palette. It is so, so beautiful, and another huge congratulations to both of them because that was such a fun launch last year. They also came out with the Flower Punk palette, which is still one of my absolute favorite palettes in my whole collection, my favorite one from the brand. I was so blown away when they first revealed this, and I'm just so happy this exists. I think this color story is so fun and unique, and I am still so in love with it. The Melt Cosmetics Mary Jane palette. This came out last year, and I'm a sucker for Melt, and this is such a fun one as well. If I'm gonna play with neutrals, it's gonna be cool tones every time, and this is just so beautiful. I love how grungy it is. I love these textured metallic shimmers. They are so pretty. I love how deep this one gets. It's just such a smoky dream, and I still think it's so good. I also have the Lunar Beauty Moonspell 2 palette. I love the first Moonspell, and I was so pumped that he was launching a second one last year. It's so pretty. I'm a sucker for a red, purple, pink color story, and this one is so beautiful. I love the shimmers in here, and these mattes are so fun. I love how rich and punchy they are, but there's also some darker shades, some lighter tones. I think this is such a fun one. I need to play with this one again soon as well because it's so pretty. Now, a couple that I talked about last year, but I no longer have. I'll insert some pictures. From ColourPop, the Limoncello palette. I can't believe I decluttered that one this year just because I loved this so hard last year and for like the beginning portion of this year, but whenever I was going over all my palettes and decluttering a bit, I just realized maybe I don't love that one as much as I used to. Like, it's still really aesthetically pleasing. I think it's a gorgeous palette, but it's just not really my perfect palette. I can appreciate how pretty it is without owning it, if that makes sense. So I ended up giving it to a friend. Also, the Lush in Paradise. I realized it was more so the middle of the palette that I liked the most. There were a lot of shades in this one that I just wasn't really using, and the shades that I did like in it, I could get in other places. So I also decided to give that one to a friend, but I did love that one really hard last year. Moving on now into lip products. Let's see where to start. Well, I guess we can talk about one that I also talked about in my 2022 favorites because I kind of forgot I talked about it in my 2021 favorites, and it was still such a prevalent favorite in my life for this year. But just the lip clays in general from Kaleidos. This is one of their new vaults. I'm wearing one right now in Bloodstone. The lip clays are just so good. It is such a killer formula. I'll swatch this one just so you can kind of see it, but Rose Fire, it's such a pretty pink, and this is such a unique formula. It goes on like a liquid, but it dries down kind of like a powder. It's so comfortable and lightweight and soft. I just love the way it feels. It feels so pillowy on the lips. I love the lip clays, like still do. They're one of my favorite lip products ever. I was also really into this Fresh Kiss lip cream from ColourPop last year in the shade Babydoll. And as you can see, it survived the declutters, so I still really like it. I think this is a really good formula, just super creamy and comfy. It doesn't dry down matte and drying, and this is just a good color, you know? I can wear this like every day. Unearthly Cosmetics came out with these satin liquid lipsticks. They also actually just added like 7 or 8 new shades recently. This one's still my favorite, Jeanette. It's such a good color, and these are also just like really, really comfy. They don't dry down super matte and drying. They stay just cozy on the lips. But this one lasts a really long time. Like I can usually eat and talk and go about my day, and this one doesn't wear off super bad. The ColourPop one does wear off during the day, but very gently. It doesn't look super obvious. This one seems to stay put unless I eat something super oily, and same with the lip clays from Kaleidos. They stay put unless I eat something super oily. I have one from Urban Decay that I actually don't have the shade of anymore. It was in the shade Liar. It must have just not made the cut during my declutters, because especially with regular lipsticks, it was in like this kind of packaging. I know what my absolute favorites are, and I didn't want to hoard a bunch. This one in particular is in the shade Naked. Liar was just like a neutral, but just a nice creamy lipstick. I still like the formula, but obviously I didn't keep the color around. I found other things that I like more, specifically the Rare Beauty lipsticks, but I did already post my 2022 favorites if you want to go check that out and see what my favorites are for this year. A couple glosses, the Lunar Beauty Bitchcraft Gloss that came out with that Moonspell 2 palette. This is so good. I still love this gloss. I feel like I wore this recently actually. I just love that soft rosy color, and it's so smooth on the lips. It's very glidey feeling, very lightweight, not super sticky. I love this. And I also have the Lizzie McGuire gloss. This is from ColourPop, one of their plumping glosses. This one's like clear with little glitters in it. It's so cute. Oh, it still smells like bubble gum. I didn't keep most of my plumping glosses anymore from ColourPop just because, again, I had a lot of glosses and I was trying to like narrow it down, but this one is still one of my absolute favorites. A good go-to if I want a clear gloss, maybe a little bit of sparkle mixed in. I like the plumping sensation, and I do like the tube. Like it feels very nostalgic to hold this kind of like squeezy tube. I do have a Lippie stick from ColourPop that I no longer have. It was in the shade Chakra Wave, and it is a beautiful color, just a really nice neutral, super simple. But I decluttered all of my Lippie sticks this year just because it wasn't the formula I was reaching for first anymore. And again, when it came to regular lipsticks, I have my absolute favorites, and it was really hard to stray past those because it's such a good range of colors. So didn't keep that one, but I did really love it. And that about wraps it up for reminiscing on my 2021 favorites. This felt like such a throwback to talk about all these. Like I literally felt like I was back in last year again. And there were some really good products. Most of these I still have and love. Very few of them did I declutter, and I had very good reasons. And it wasn't usually that I thought it was suddenly bad. It just wasn't a perfect fit for me anymore. And that's okay. Sometimes you don't have to have something as a favorite for the rest of your life, you know what I mean? But I still love most of these so much. I think there were some fantastic launches last year. There were some fantastic launches this year, and I'm really excited to see what next year brings as well. I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the things I talked about today? Are any of these still your favorites? Do you have your eye on any of these? What were some of your favorite things from 2021 that you still love now? If you made it to the end of this video, why don't you leave some white emojis, because I have a lot of white going on today. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps my channel out a lot. And if you're not already, you can follow me on my other socials. You can join the Baddie Bean fam. I'm Baddie Bean on everything, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, bye. I think I'm back in my wig era. Like, I think I'm just gonna wear wigs again for a while because I missed it and I've been loving wearing them again. But you'd be shocked, like the amount of people that like get offended when I wear wigs a lot. Like people are like, show your real hair. And I'm like, it's okay. Just let me be expressive. It's just for fun, I can take it off.